Gen Z and Millennials are not having kids. US birth rates have reached 40-year lows. At the same time, Japan and South Korea and several other European countries have reached dangerous levels in replacement rates. Viewing this situation from an American lens, it becomes visible that Gen Z and Millennials are choosing not to have kids. In this video, we will dive into the economic and societal reasons for this shift. Before we start this video, be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out and it really helps the channel grow. It keeps you informed. Now, it's easy to get lost in the weeds here and pick a side. That's not the point of this video. I want to dive into this very compelling trend with a non-biased lens. I want you, the viewer, to decide if there's a right or wrong way or none at all. Scrolling through social media and talking to people, it becomes evident that young people are afraid, extremely afraid. This isn't the same type of fear your parents or grandparents had during those tumultuous 1960s and 1970s. It's a different type of fear, I think. Whereas riots and rapid social change shaped the late 1960s, we are living through a very different time period. You see, social media tailors everyone's biggest fear into one feed, an infinite doom scroll of scary reasons. One of these major concerns is climate change. Now, climate change has always been a worry for Americans. It really started in the 1970s, but that was 50 years ago, and a lot has happened since then. Young Americans are worried.
We don't even know if we're going to have a suitable earth to raise our kids in the next 40 years, and you want me to bring a child into this world?
Will we be able to raise kids in the climate crisis?
Gen Z is worried. Those clips really highlight one of the many reasons why Gen Z and Millennials are not having kids. They do not want to raise kids in a society where climate disaster may be right around the corner. Now, I'm not going to dive too deep into this. I will say this, climate change can be a very scary subject and a very complicated subject, especially for people living in lower income countries. But the thing is, none of these people interviewed or in those videos were living in low income countries. Many experts suggest that richer countries like the US or the UK will have more adequate infrastructure to combat a lot of the harmful effects of climate change. But here's the thing, no country is fully immune. How immune is up to interpretation. Overall, there's many strong opinions on climate change. I want y'all's take on this. Comment down below what you think. Do you believe that climate change is a valid reason not to have children? One of the major factors that stems across developed countries is the cost of living. This is a common theme that we discuss on the channel. This reason does not surprise me one bit. Everywhere you turn, we see child-related costs have skyrocketed. We see healthcare costs have exploded. Childcare has doubled. Of course, college has increased, and according to data from the College Board, the average cost of tuition and fees at public four-year colleges has increased by over 3,400% in normal terms from 1964 to 2019. In 1964, the average cost was around $256 per year. In 2019, it had risen all the way over $10,000 per year. So yeah, a lot of this is public knowledge. Not only are Gen Zers not having kids, they're also not going to college. And if you want to learn more about this in depth, why Gen Z isn't going to college, click on the video right here. Financial planners say a lot of times they don't even let their clients know the full cost to raise a child, which is around $310,000. Adjusted for inflation, not including college, childcare inflation has risen, double that of inflation. Gen Z and millennial couples without kids have now been coined as dinks. Dual income, no kids. This has been a trend as seen on places like TikTok. Analysts say that dinks are able to prioritize savings and stability. All this leads to higher amounts of disposable income. Another factor playing a huge role in this and people not having kids is the cultural shift that we've seen over the past few decades. People are interested in progressing their careers. Rightfully so. People are no longer forced to feel like they need to have kids by the time they're age 25. Many people just don't want to have kids. They don't feel that in them, in their heart, that they should have kids. We have famous celebrities come forward and explain their reasons and benefits of not having kids. I think social media has shined a huge spotlight on how difficult it can be to raise kids. And yeah, a lot of these videos are pretty doom and gloom, but they're putting a new perspective out there in the minds of Gen Z, for example. So basically what we have here is older millennials are sharing their negative experiences of raising children, and young millennials and older Gen Zers have listened. Now, there's really many ways to view this. On one hand, we have people saying this is a great thing, that people should have options to not have kids. Now, on the other side of things, we have people saying that, the younger generations are selfish, that we have an obligation to give back to the younger generation. And you can see both sides of this argument. In any case, I think that people shouldn't feel like they should have children. They shouldn't feel pressured. Just take a step back and look around. This isn't your parents' or grandparents' economic environment anymore. It's a lot more challenging one, and it's something that's changed over the past few decades. It's changed really rapidly. People may not have the resources or willpower to raise children. All that aside, there may be a huge drastic economic consequence if society pushes too far away from being parents. Let's take a look at several global economies here. To take note, the global replacement rate is around 2.1 people. The term speaks for itself. The UK is around at 1.49, which is a record low, by the way. Japan sits at 1.26, and South Korea is super low right there. The Japanese government has already spent billions on pensions, medical care, and other age-related costs. This is what happens when countries' age demographics get really weirdly warped. Countries like France and Italy have already taken measures to increase the benefits for parental leave and other childcare options. History and research suggests that declining birth rates are super difficult to reverse. Social welfare and safety nets rely on the future input of workers. And if we have less people being born, that means we effectively have less workers, less input, and ultimately less money to pay for those programs that benefit the retired. Now, how will the US economy be affected by lower birth rates among Gen Z? Well, fewer babies being born isn't necessarily a bad thing for the US economy. According to a research firm, the birth rate has already fallen before without a huge economic toll on the economy. This happened during the 80s and the 90s, and those were huge boom times for the US economy, despite falling fertility the prior decade. A falling birth rate is also more common among wealthier nations. This is a known. That's because the wealthier nation has a lower infant mortality rate and people are generally living longer, allowing them to have fewer babies and potentially postpone having kids. According to experts, the advancement of technologies like artificial intelligence or AI could offset the huge impact of a shrinking workforce. Goldman Sachs estimates that AI could possibly disrupt around 300 million jobs globally. This suggests that despite a smaller workforce, the economy could continue to prosper due to an enhanced efficiency and productivity. Additionally, even if declining birth rates do have some huge economic implication, they're not expected to manifest outright. They're not expected to manifest immediately. This indicates that both the market and the broader economy are not currently facing an imminent peril, at least in terms of an American lens. The firm highlighted that skepticism surrounding the concerns about declining birth rates. They suggested that they may be hugely exaggerated. The idea that economic growth is super linked to population growth has come under a lot of scrutiny. So overall, we don't fully know how a falling birth rate will affect the US economy. The US has had a decent flow of immigration, which offsets most of the effects, the negative effects of a declining population. It seems a bit wrong to me that the government should be reflecting on economic models as the only reason for people not to have kids. Those that don't have kids, they shouldn't be judged for not doing so. I think the most troubling thing about all of this is that many Gen Z and millennials, they still want children. But it's the fact that the cost of living has gone up so high that it's just completely altered people's life decisions. That's what governments should focus on. Governments should not be looking at these models and simply saying our citizens need to be having more kids. They should be taking a step back, asking, how do we get here? How do we let an entire generation have an unequal opportunity to start a family? How do we let the cost of living reach an unsustainable level? And how did we let a society second guess their choice to start a family solely based on the money that they have in their bank account? Media outlets might tell you that Gen Z doesn't want kids because they're scared of the world or millennials are too selfish. No, I don't think that's the full picture here. The full picture is that the cost of living has gotten too high. Everything has gotten expensive, and social media has made everyone aware of that. Overall, I think we're walking a tightrope here. I believe if our society continues to punish those that are less fortunate from having a family, I think economic slowdowns will be the least of our concerns. Well, guys, I hope you like this video. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Did you agree with everything that was discussed in this video, or do you have other opinions? Please let me know. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. There will be more content throughout the remainder of this year. And like always, stay informed out.